Hey everybody, I feel like it's a little late in the afternoon. The energy is a little low. Is everyone feeling? Seeing some smiles. Okay, so I'm going to try, because the energy is a little low and it's late in the afternoon, I'm a data analyst and I'm going to tell a joke for you. So this can either go one of two ways. One, you will laugh and that will kind of get your heart rate going. We'll get back to it. If it's funny, and if it's not funny, you can just feel free to mock me and make fun of me, and that will get your heart rate going, and then we'll all be back with our energy. Okay, so this is, I was reminded when Avinash was up on stage, actually, of something that happened to me my last trip in Germany. So this is actually a true story, it's not really a joke. I was here presenting a few years ago in Munich when I worked at an agency around A/B testing. I'm assuming you guys know what A/B testing is, you're all marketers. Seeing some heads nodding. For anyone who doesn't know, A/B testing, very simple. If you have a home page or a form to complete or a landing page or an email, you create, instead of just creating one version and putting it out there, you create 4 or 5 different versions. You put them all out in the wild and you see which one works best, and then that is your hero. That's the one you go with. So I'm presenting this idea to my first German crowd. And what Avinash said before about Americans being in awe of the precision of Germans is absolutely true. And that goes probably double or triple for people from Texas. Texas is the antithesis of precision. Texas, if we want to hit something, we just load up 2 guns and start shooting. And if we miss it, we just reload and keep going. And that's not even the joke. Okay, here's the joke. So I'm presenting A/B testing to my first German crowd, and I talk about the process of it. And at the end, I say, any questions? And a woman raises her hand, and she says, I don't get it. And I'm like, shit, this is not good. First of all, I'm speaking English. That's probably not going to help. So I go through some overall high-level topics again, and she says, sorry, I still don't get it. And I say, well, I'm sorry, ma'am, what exactly do you not get about A/B testing? And she says to me, I don't understand why we just don't do it perfect the first time. And it's the best question I've ever been asked, and I had no answer for it at all. So all I want to do today is have this presentation go better than that one. Okay, I got a couple laughs. Okay, good. Okay, so I'm here to talk about social data, which is my favorite form of social data, which is good because this is what I do for a living. I head up analytics and research at Spreadfast in Austin, Texas. We are an enterprise-level social thing, platform. But because I head up research, it means that I get to play with what we call fire hoses of data all day long, all this social data. We have a fire hose from Twitter. We have APIs from Facebook. We have Pinterest. We have LinkedIn. We have Tumblr. We have all these different sources of information. And what I do, and what I direct my team to do every day, is to figure out how brands and consumers interact in these weird little worlds that are pretty new to a lot of us, and where brands, a lot of times, feel very foreign, right, in the middle of all these different threads of conversations that are happening. So that's what I do every day. And so about 2 years ago, I started to become fascinated by this trend called real-time marketing. You guys have heard a lot about it today. I'm going to go through about a year's worth of research and some additional stuff, actually, that turned into this book, Trendology, that was published last November. But first, because there have been a lot of different definitions of real-time marketing, I'm going to talk about my version of real-time marketing, at least the first version, the one I studied with social data. So a few months back, the date was February 27th, I was actually flying from London back to Austin on a direct flight, and that's about 9 hours. British Airways, no Wi-Fi. I land Friday afternoon, February 27th, and the internet had exploded with 3 huge things that were happening that day. The first thing that happened was that House of Cards Season 3 was released, at least to the US, and everyone freaked out and was calling in sick so they could watch and talk about the show. But that wasn't the biggest thing that happened that day. The second biggest thing that happened that day was that a pair of llamas got loose in Sun City, Arizona, and were running around the town. And they had 2 police and news helicopters, you saw it, that were filming this whole thing, and they could not catch these llamas, and it went on for about 45 minutes, and it was hilarious. And again, I am landing, and I'm just catching up to all this different stuff that's happening. But even the llamas were not the biggest crazy thing that happened on the internet that day. On February 27th, the biggest thing that happened looked like this. Okay, this is the dress. This went worldwide, right? Everyone debating it, everyone talking about it. And the big debate here, as you guys know, is what color do you see? So who sees white and gold? Give me some hands. Okay, who sees black and blue? All right, you people out. We talked about this in the office. We talked about this on social networks. This was on newscasts. I went home and talked to my family about it. Both of my kids saw black and blue. So now I have paternity tests out because I'm convinced I am not their father, because that is white and gold. But this is a huge conversation that took over social media and the internet in general, right? We were all talking about it. And it was a great one because it had a lot of different options around stuff to talk about. What was weird was when this started happening. So this is Dunkin' Donuts. I saw one over in the center square yesterday. And they're saying it doesn't matter if it's blue and black and white and gold, they still taste delicious. Hashtag the dress, just a couple pictures, just a picture of a couple donuts, and that's it. Nice and simple. This is what I call real-time marketing. This is a trend where a brand jumps in on the trend where usually they have no business being in that trend, right? And this is happening more and more and more every day. So what we're going to talk about today is this, and what this means, and where this is going, and we're going to look at some data behind this. We're going to talk about three big things, though. The first one is that hopefully by the end of this presentation, you're going to care about that stuff instead of just kind of laughing about it. Okay? The second thing is you're going to see that this stuff is already shifting and evolving, and we've seen some of these examples already today. We're going to see some more here. And then the third one is that if you want to take advantage of this stuff, some of the data that you're seeing here in the next few minutes, you have to change your organization. The change doesn't have to be gigantic, and we're going to talk about that, but there does need to be some change. Okay, so before we get to number one, I'm going to give you a quick history of real-time marketing, because the Dunkin' Donuts stuff and the Oreo tweet and all this stuff, this is not the first time we've seen this stuff. This stuff has been around a very long time. This is Aaron Rodgers. He's the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, and he's in Disney World. Now, since 1987, or in 1987, Disney World started a real-time trend. At the end of every Super Bowl, they would find the most valuable player, the MVP, or the quarterback, or the guy that caught the ball to score the winning touchdown, and they would have a camera crew on the field, and they would ask him a question, and it said, "You just won the Super Bowl, what are you doing next?" And they knew, because I guess the camera had mouse ears on it or something, they knew what to say because they were going to get paid if they said it, and it was, "I'm going to Disney World." And this became part of my childhood. This happened year after year after year after year. But it didn't air the next week. It aired a few minutes after the event happened in the postgame. This is real-time marketing. This is jumping on a trend. This is old school real-time marketing, right? This is jumping on a trend because everyone's thinking about that trend. What does Disney World have to do with the Super Bowl? Absolutely nothing. But this became part of American advertising history because they just kept doing it, and people loved it. So that's one example. Another example of real-time marketing that we see and breathe every day is right here at Google. When I searched last week for Hawaiian vacations, I got organic search results, but I got a lot of ads as well. And these are contextual ads. These are relevant ads because they're based off a search query. This is how Google became Google, right? We use this every day. We take it for granted. This is real-time marketing. They're not posting ads for stuff I didn't talk about. They're posting ads for stuff that's in my micro trend, in my micro moment, because they convert better, right? Here's another version. I don't know if you guys have Zappos over here. This is a big shopping site got bought up by Amazon a few years back. I buy all my shoes there, and I was looking last week for these Converse shoes. And they are notorious for doing exactly what you're about to see. I looked at these shoes, I did not buy them, and then I literally typed facebook.com into the browser, and I saw this. This is retargeting. We see this all the time. And if you'll see over here, there's also a pair of sunglasses that I was shopping for earlier that day. They're there to remind you that this is happening. Retargeting is a very, very effective form of advertising because it's a form of real-time marketing. It's a micro-trend for me. I should be thinking about these shoes still, so they're going to remind me to come back. I don't know if they need to put 2 ads there for me. That's a bit much. So this stuff is happening all over the place. Relevant ads. Relevant ads convert better. They make us more money. For some reason, when it happens on social media, people freak out. No, this is Beyonce. Okay, last September 4th, it was her birthday. Well, every September 4th, it's her birthday. That's how birthdays work. People found out it was her birthday, and they freaked out on Twitter and on Facebook. And they started wishing her happy birthday. And all these different hashtags popped up. And a lot of them went away, but a few of them became trends, and then it became this one gigantic trend. It was hashtag Beyday, B-E-Y-D-A-Y. This was the worldwide trend for Beyonce's birthday. And all was well and good until Best Buy jumped in and decided to wish Beyonce a happy birthday as well. And everybody flipped out. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. The first thing, again, that we want to talk about here today is that you need to care about RTM, and I'm going to show you why. Because the mood in the industry right now, and it's been that way for about a year, is that this stuff is silly, and it's weird, and it's going to damage your brand, and it's fleeting, and it's a gimmick. And I get that, because it's really, really easy to make fun of, and it makes for some awesome headlines. I've been collecting headlines. Real-time marketing is a real waste of time. That's kind of a lazy headline. They did the real thing. Real-time marketing fails, mostly fails, falls flat, fail again, sucks. Only the dumb survive. Go home, real-time marketing, you're drunk. These are great. And another headline I would throw in here is that Seth Godin quote that I've seen before and then we saw earlier today about Oreo never selling an additional cookie because of that tweet. I think that is complete bullshit. I think there is no data behind that at all. That thing got about 500 million impressions. If that didn't work, then advertising doesn't work. That's just the way things work. There's no way they didn't sell additional stuff. Just because Seth Godin doesn't know how much they sold doesn't mean he's right. And I like Seth Godin. But that's the great thing about these headlines. Again, real-time marketing is really easy to make fun of, and it makes for great headlines. So people like to do this. But if you look through here, there's no data. There's no data. You can't do a standard deviation of sucks, right? It's opinion. It's snark. And this is an opportunity. I think this is where we are right now. Real-time marketing is over here. Lots of people are talking about it, and there's no data about it. And this is actually where you want to be if you want to disrupt. That's an opportunity space. You guys may have heard of Moneyball, based on baseball in the United States, where about 20 years ago, baseball players used to be judged based on how they stood in the batter's box, or if they had a lot of confidence, then that meant they would be a good player. Until sabermetrics and a team called the Oakland A's and a manager called Billy Beane disrupted with data to say, no, we can actually measure this stuff. There's 30 baseball teams. They play 162 games a year. They create a huge amount of data. Why aren't we looking at the data to see if it actually works? That's where Moneyball was. So this is what I did with Trendology. I decided to take the energy that's being talked about real-time marketing and look at some data behind it. So we're going to walk through some of that. We're going to play Moneyball with RTM. So we're going to start here, back where we started with our Dunkin' Donuts tweet. How do we know if this did well? So as a data analyst, I'm always looking for numbers, maybe some language, maybe some sentiment. I'm looking at these. And I know that these can be referred to as vanity metrics, but I reject that. I think if you put something out there and 3,400 people share it, that's ridiculously cool. Right? People don't do that with branded content. People don't do that with ads. I wake up every morning and I see 5 emails in my inbox from people trying to sell me stuff, and I can't remember when I ever sent one of those emails to my entire address book. That's what a retweet is, right? People are sharing this content, and when they favorite it, they're saying, I like this. I'm not going to stand here, and this is a different presentation. I'm not going to stand here and say this is worth $10 and this is worth $5, because that's bullshit. This is worth what you do with it. That's a whole different social strategy conversation. But this is worth something because now you know if this resonates, especially when you start comparing it to your other content. Don't compare that to the Oreo tweet. Compare it to your history. See what works. So that's exactly what I did. With this tweet, I looked at those numbers, And then I wrote a Python script, some computer code, to ping the Twitter API. And I can get back 3,200 tweets. Dunkin' Donuts lasts 3,200 tweets. And then I threw out their retweets and their replies. I wanted to see what normal looks like for Dunkin' Donuts, and I want to see if this is better than that, because that's what their social media team cares about. When we did this, did we do better than we usually do? And if so, our audience probably loves this shit. So let's find out. That's what they usually see over their last 3,200 tweets, which means this one did pretty good. And so maybe this stuff isn't so silly anymore. But this is just one data point, and we can't be a good data analyst if we just look at one data point, so we're not going to do that. Luckily for us, with the dress, hashtag the dress, and other terms that were around the dress, I saw 126 brands jump in. 126 different brands jump in to talk about the dress. And I did this exercise for all 126 of them, because I don't care who won, and I don't care on average what works. I care about the distribution of success. I care, of those 126, how many did well. So that's what this is. Each one of these orange lines is a brand. And every line that goes that way did better than they usually do, and every one that goes this way did worse than they usually do, versus their own last 3,000 tweets. So you can see here, out of the 126, 106 of them did better than they usually do. On average, about 539% better for engagement. Their audiences liked this content more than the other stuff that they've been putting out. And the other stuff they've been putting out is pre-canned content. It's basically advertising on social media. They like this stuff better. The audience likes this stuff better. They engage with it better. They share with it more. And I'm seeing this exact shape. Pay attention to this shape, because you're going to see it about 20 more times here real fast. Because I see this every day with almost every trend that I look at. We're told that if you're Oreo, or if you're Arby's, or if you're the Ellen selfie and you win the day, then RTM makes sense. But for everyone else, you lose, right? That's not what this distribution tells me. And here, in addition to that, well, we have 126 brands, so there's going to be a variety of content here. But here's a couple of them. We have everything from auto to toys to United, to Manchester United. I saw the band The Rolling Stones did RTM for the dress. The American Civil Liberties Union, nonprofit, did RTM around the dress, saying we see things differently, we're different people, let's all get along. All sorts of different financial services, pharma, all sorts of different brands jumped in on this. And as you saw, most of them did well. For the book, I looked at over 100 brands. I looked at the Interbrand 100, the 100 most valuable brands in the world. I looked at big events, small events, all sorts of different stuff when people were doing real time to see if this stuff worked, based on data, not opinion. And overwhelmingly, it does, across verticals, across different size events. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy that no one else is talking about this. So I'm going to go through a very quick list. This is the World Cup bite. This is last year when the player bit the other player. You can see the distributions down here, and then that's the average for engagement that bumped for each of these. So 9 out of 10 brands that jumped in to talk about, again, not send an ad out on Twitter, but to talk about something that the world is talking about. The audience absolutely loved it. 9 out of 10, on average, 4,700% bump. Royal Baby 2, when they announced that they were pregnant, it looked like this. Again, same distribution, 12 out of 14 brands saw success. When the Royal Baby was born, 16 brands jumped in, British brands, 15 of them saw success, 2,500% on average. Daylight savings time, 20 brands jumped in, 15 of them saw success, more than doubling. Break the internet, when Kim Kardashian came out and got naked on that magazine cover. I saw 11 brands jump in, on 10 of them saw success, on average 6,200%. When the Apple Watch announcement and an iPhone 6 announcement happened, 15 brands jumped in on that, and that was crazy. That was a branded event, and other brands were jumping in on it. 13 of them saw success, 1,300%. When those phones started bending, I saw 14 brands jump on hashtag Bendgate. 12,000% bump on average. Great British Bake Off, NBA movies, National Cat Day, National Aviation Day, National Chocolate Day, and yes, going back, even Beyonce's birthday, that Best Buy tweet saw 24 times the usual level of engagement that they usually see when they put pre-canned, boring content on Twitter. Their audience loved it, and so did 9 out of 10 brands that jumped in with 842% average. This stuff works ridiculously well if you do it right, if you don't try to hijack the trend, if you actually build on the conversation, add some humor, add some insight, add some value, and we'll talk about that here in a second. And I've stepped back to think about why this works so well, right? And it really makes sense. As marketers, we have very, very, very difficult jobs. We have signed up for a very difficult job. We have people whose attention is on a thing. They're watching a show, or they're reading Facebook, or they're reading a magazine, and then as marketers, we have to create an ad and be like, no, 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 think about this. Think about my value prop or my story or whatever I'm trying to tell you. And you have to use great storylines, expensive production, beautiful people, bright colors, loud sounds to distract because they're thinking about something else. And real-time marketing works exactly the opposite way. Real-time marketing takes the thing they're already talking about and it just drafts right in behind it. So people don't have to spend that extra energy to go over to your storyline. And that's why it makes sense. So let's talk about the shift. So people, again, you saw 126 brands doing RTM on the dress. Lots of brands are doing this, and I'm seeing more and more and more every week, every month. And I'm already seeing an evolution in how brands do this. Now, the first stuff that came out was mostly around snark and funny comments, right? And I hear a lot of brands say, well, I'm a financial services brand, I'm a pharmaceutical brand, I'm a B2B brand, and I don't have that tone and voice, and I don't want to fake it. And you shouldn't fake it. You should be honest to your brand, or else it's not going to work. But there's plenty of brands that are adding utility instead of entertainment, where this stuff is working too. So this winter, we had a blizzard hit. It was hashtag Blizzard 2015. It hit the East Coast. And I saw a bunch of brands jump in, not making fun of people being hit by a blizzard, which would be a really bad idea, and not very nice at all, but with help and utility, and saying, here's how you prepare for this storm. Take care of your pets. Here's some driving tips, right? And all of these performed really, really well. The ASPCA one got 18 times the normal level of engagement. And every example you see in here, by the way, is organic. There's no paid in any of these. So the other shift I see is that media companies are embracing real-time. So at Spreadfest, we work with most of the top sports brands. So ESPN and BBC and BT Sport. And sports brands and networks are used to creating their own events. So this is no surprise. Real-time is no surprise for them. They're not used to jumping on other events, so they're learning how to do that effectively with their brand. But it's not just sports networks that are doing this. This is Comedy Central show at midnight, one of the Viacom networks that we work with as well. This show is crazy as far as generating trends. Not only has the show been created to make it very real-time, that they bring in events from the day every night on this little comedy game show, but they also have a hashtag that trends almost every night and the next morning created by the show. Viacom is doing a lot more of these across all their different properties, Comedy Central, VH1, MTV, and putting content out there, knowing that these teenagers, or what's being called screenagers now, are consuming content differently and are tapped into these trends as well. Here's a couple different examples. Here's one on digital, that they create a lot of quick microsites about their own stuff as well as other stuff that's happening out in the world. They do real-time ads. They have a program called Always On, where their editorial team meets twice a day to talk about trends with pop stars, with news, with whatever it might be, anything that's trending on Twitter, and they create assets, video assets, that not only go on Vine and Twitter, but also go on broadcast. So things are changing really, really fast. And here's an example of the VH1 Vimoji, where people can text each other with real-time GIFs from a show that's happening as it's airing. So this is driving tune-in, which is a big thing that they want to do for Nielsen networks. So media companies are becoming real-time companies as well. The other shift that I'm seeing is there's just more data everywhere. More data, more data, more data. I am most excited about all the data that's sitting on my phone backstage. And this is just kind of a quick example when I think through the data, and if all of these could talk to each other in a very private and safe way where my privacy is protected, it could do amazing things. I spoke to the guy who leaves up Under Armour's digital center of excellence, which is based in Austin. But basically, they just bought a bunch of different apps, MapMyFitness, Endomondo, and another one. They have the biggest health and wellness app install base now. And we were talking about, well, he's like, how can I make my app better, my running app better? And I was thinking about it. I was like, well, for me, I don't need a better running app. I need a better, say, alarm clock, right? If my alarm clock was smarter, it could tell me not just what time it was to wake up, it could know where I was, could know where I was yesterday, maybe I need a little more sleep. It could tell me if I want to run, if I have a run scheduled. It could tell me if I'm trying to lose weight that I probably should go run. It could tell me if 3 of my other friends are out there running and kind of goat me into it. And it could tell me the last time I ran. It can make me a mixtape on the fly. It can create that. It can change that entire experience and get me out there and get me healthier, just by connecting all these different data pieces that are already sitting there. Again, these are micro moments, not big trends that are worldwide, but just for me. Now, the difference in that shift is that with a big trend like the dress, you can have a team, a social team, that attacks that problem. For this, you need an algorithm. And here's an example. This is the Waze app, which is a traffic app, and it gives you little cartoon characters about how traffic is doing. But it also, there's a Dunkin' Donuts thing up there, and then there's a Cricket wireless thing down here as well. It's aware of how fast you're going, so it won't pop up an ad if you're driving for safety reasons. Unless you've been sitting for 5 seconds, it won't give you an ad at all. It's using this ambient data that's flowing around to serve up micro moments that are a trend for you. If you're stuck in traffic, again, you can hit Dunkin' Donuts up. That's something that's happening in your life that's important. That's relevant stuff. So let's talk about change real quick. So there's a lot going on with real time, and people always say, I need a war room, and there's just too much pressure, and it's just going to cost too much. Real time is actually very, very different for different people and different situations. This grid is in the book, and it outlines 4 different types of real time. And it ranges from stuff I know is going to happen all the way down to stuff I had no idea was going to happen. And then over here, we have big events like the World Cup, and then over there, there's small little events. And the llamas are like down here somewhere. But this gives us 4 different things. And the top 2, this planned content, we know this stuff's coming. We can plan this content ahead of time and just schedule it to post the night of the Oscars, right? I know who the host is going to be, and I know who the nominees are, so I can write some jokes or some insight and just post it that night. And it can still be considered RTM. I don't need a war room for that. Now, down here, I do need a war room. This is the Oreo moment, right? This is the World Cup bite. This is a big event, but you need to react. So there you do need a war room. Up here in watch list, this is stuff that we can kind of see coming. I call it the Bieber quadrant, because you know he's going to get in trouble, you just don't know when it's going to happen. So you can kind of be ready for this and just not know when to post it, right? And then down here, these are everyday trends. You do need to be responsive to these. But if you're looking to get into real-time marketing and see some of those returns that I showed earlier in slides, you don't need a war room. You just need a war room for these 2 down here. The 2 up top, they work great as well. So there are shifts that have to happen to get there. You need a team that's ready for real time. This is a shot of a war room. We know a lot of agencies that are becoming really real-time focused, and they are bringing in news producers instead of digital producers because so many people are asking for this stuff. But it can also be as simple as taking your existing team and sitting down with them and saying, let's take 10 minutes a day and just look for something that's interesting. We don't have to dedicate all this time to it. Let's just start and try it out and see what happens, right? That's a pretty easy shift. You also need to shift your process. You need to shift your mindset. This outline is in the book. We've got set goals with a line, and then discover, do your discovery phases. This is where most people screw up in the discover part of it. They don't go out and search, like that DiGiorno example, which we'll get to in a second. And then get ready to post it, and then see what happens. This is no different than marketing has kind of always been, at least for the past few years. The only difference is that now, instead of doing this every 6 months, teams that I work with are doing this 3 to 4 times a day. It's just more rapid, if you have that infrastructure together. So you need your process to shift as well. And then you need technology. You need to be aware of all these trends that are happening. This is the Spread Fast Intelligence tool. Not only does it tell you the story of what's happening, it tells you what's going to happen over there on the far right via data science and what we predict will happen. We like to say that you shouldn't feel obligated to jump on every trend if you're doing real time, but you should just be aware of every trend, just to let them pass by if it's not right for your brand or your timing or your team or whatever it might be. Okay, last example. And this is going to talk about something that Paul brought up earlier. I've got a bit of a different take on it. This is the DiGiorno total fuck up that they did. What it told me was something a little bit different. They did screw up. They didn't do their research. They didn't look into the hashtag. They jumped on it, and they said something really stupid, and then they went into damage control mode, and they went to fix it. And they were in headlines, and they were on TV about being the poster child for do not do real-time marketing because you're going to screw up. And they did screw up. So what they did on September 9th, right after this happened, is they turned off their Twitter account. And they didn't post for a while. So the story, what we always hear is this. The story we don't hear about is what happened when they came back. And that was what's fascinating to me. I want to know how the audience is going to respond when these guys come back to Twitter. And that's what they did on October 1st, about 3 weeks later. Now remember, this is the brand that's being vilified as don't do real-time marketing. It's going to be a huge mistake. You're going to mess up. Here's how, and they did their damage control. They apologized when it happened. Here's how they came back on October 1st. This is their first tweet back. And as you can see, it's not really apologizing anymore. They're just back. They're rolling. And in fact, it's real-time marketing. It's National Pizza Month. This is planned real-time marketing. And this is the tone and voice that they usually do. All caps, right? This is a frozen pizza brand, right? They need to stick out a little bit, so they have this very unique tone and voice. And this is why they have so many followers, because people kind of like following them. So what I was really interested in was not the retweets and favorites on this one. I was interested in the responses. I wanted to see how pissed off people were at DiGiorno, right? So I combed through all the responses, and I've got a collection of them here. I couldn't fit them all on the screen, but I did not cherry pick these. These are representative of all the responses to DiGiorno when they came back on October 1st. This is crazy, right? I've never seen anything like this before. And this is why, even though they screwed up, this tells me that real-time marketing can really create a true bond with an audience. When you talk like a human in social media and you're a brand, you get these kind of responses back. People call you friend, they call you buddy, they say I love you if you do it well. When's the last time you guys stopped advertising for 3 weeks and your audience missed you and cheered when you returned? Never happens, right? This stuff, if you do it right and you manage the risk, this stuff can be very, very, very powerful. And I think that's why this data is all so off the charts. So remember, I hope I changed your mind. Maybe you care a little bit now about real-time marketing. We can still make fun of it when it's funny. We can still have fun with the headlines, but know that this shit really works. Second thing is, it's already shifting. It's already moving. Tons of brands are already doing this. So if you do it right and you can manage that risk, you can do it too. And then you do need to change a little bit. You don't have to go war room. You can change your team. You can tweak your team, your process, and your technology. You just need to be ready. But I really, truly believe, based on this data, that if you guys become more real-time and more relevant, your audience is going to love it. That's it for me. Thank you.